It is 4 o'clock, Wednesday, March 19th, and this is the Palm Springs Airport Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and Dirk is our newest commissioner, and ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sir. And has the agenda been posted?
Yes, the agenda has been posted.
Will you roll call, please?
Sure. Banks,
Here.
Berryman,
Here.
Burke is excused, Caldwell,
Here.
Corcoran,
Here.
Delgado, Evansteiner,
Here.
Feltman,
Yes.
Fong,
Here.
Hendrick,
Here.
Keel,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
McDermott, here, Park, here, Sam Lanska is excused, Boss,
Present.
Wise,
Here.
Wiseman. Double check they're not on here. Wiseman. Wiseman absent and Young is excused. We have a quorum.
Great. Do we have any changes to be made to the agenda? Any changes? Right, let's take a roll call on the agenda, please.
Motion to accept the agenda, roll call, Commissioner Banks.
Get a motion.
Oh.
Sorry.
Need a motion to accept the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second, thank you.
Thank you. And roll call Banks,
Yes.
Berryman,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Evansteiner,
Yes.
Feltman,
Yes.
Fong,
Aye.
Hendrick,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Are there any public comments? Anyone in the public or on Zoom want to make a comment at the beginning of the meeting?
No public comment.
No public comments, all right, let's move on. 6A, the conference room remodel. Christina, will you give us an update, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Corcoran and Commissioner. We are excited to announce that we are finally moving ahead with the remodeling and modernization of the conference room. Yay! The conference room will be under construction from April 24th to approximately July 24th. For the airport commission meetings of May 21st, June 18th, and July 16th, we'll be providing directions while we'll be holding the meeting at the City Hall large conference room. The remodel will include the following: new nesting flip tables that can be configured as a large conference room table or training tables. They can be easily stored, and the tables will have charging outlets. There will be new chairs, new carpet and paint, an integrated audio visual system with easier connectivity, soundproofing for the ceiling. All wall surfaces except for the windows will be treated with a fabric wrap panel, and an acoustic drape will be hung in front of the windows. The double doors will become single doors. They'll actually be acoustic doors, acoustic proof doors, and the patio door will be non-functional. We'll have card readers installed for the doors. The ceiling alcove will be removed, and there will be a linear light fixture that will be on the edges of the ceiling. We'll have a new credenza and on the back wall here, that will, store the, audio video equipment. There'll be two 85-inch monitors on that wall, one 85-inch monitor on that wall. There'll be cameras at the top of the monitors. We'll have a water filling station at the back. And, we'll have different individual chairs here on the perimeters, and for staff, we'll have laptop tables, so we won't have to put out the portable table any longer. So I believe I've got everything. Any questions?
Questions? We'll never want to leave.
You said there's going to be an access to outside?
Not through this room.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't typically go out onto the patio. If you would like to go out on the patio, there is access to Mary's office to get a comment.
And how much is this all going to cost?
We're still getting estimates on all of the costs right now. We just got done with the preliminary design and picking out the furniture. We're still, making some choices on the furniture because some changes or some options could not be accommodated, so we're still getting the costs together. We budgeted 300,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Anybody here with these?
TV monitors.
That's a great question. One
I'll
of
take
these.
them off the.
I'm sure that's great for Super Bowl, right? One of the monitors are gonna go into Harry's office, and then we're gonna have the other one go into, we have a building next to the vehicle inspection plaza called the annex that we let tenants use for meetings, and that we're gonna be using for meetings while the conference room is closed. We're gonna put one of them in there. Any other questions?
Any public comments here in the room, on Zoom?
Please raise your virtual hand if you have any public comments on Zoom. No public comments.
Sounds good. So our next three meetings will be held across the street at City Hall. The large conference room is behind the, well, it's in the entrance towards where they had the City Hall meetings.
Yeah, not April 1, starting in May.
Starting in May.
Yeah, we moved the, we were originally gonna start construction tomorrow, but we moved it to April due to some, the construction time needing to be pushed out.
So May, June, July. Sounds good. All right. Let's go to 6B. Harmon, updates on Measure J projects, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have 4 projects in Measure J. The first one is the water fill stations. All 8 stations have been installed. For the mid-century outdoor furniture, we are actually issuing a purchase order to procure 10 outdoor concrete benches, the 6 trash receptacles, and 2 saucer-style mid-century planter/benches. For the shade structure, we actually had a kickoff meeting with our on-call engineers to do initial studies for the shade structure, and they're actually preparing the study to see how the shade study is going to work for these shade structures for both taxis and TNCs. And for the carpet replacement, which is the main terminal, the bids were due in March. We received 2 bids for that, and the staff is evaluating the bids right now.
What was the last project?
The carpet replacement.
Oh, the carpet replacement.
Yes,
Is that the terrazzo floor?
yes,
Okay. So the water fountains, the benches,
yes,
the shade structure on the taxi side, and the terrazzo floors.
yes. Any questions?
Questions on the Measure J projects? Victoria, how much of Measure J money do we have in the bank now, assuming these are fully funded?
I can show you on the screen. Sure.
Stand by, Harmon, let's see if there's any other questions.
I'm sorry, Kevin, are we looking for the Measure J amounts that you currently have?
With the balances, Chris, if these are fully funded, how much money, Measure J money, remains that's not been allocated to projects?
Okay, oh, yep, okay. This slide tells it all.
So this was our starting balance, about 2.4 million. From our last meeting, just so you're aware, this was not the balance. We have now incorporated Q4 through 2024 in there. So starting balance is 2.4 million. We have some final numbers for the outdoor seating. Terrazzo flooring, this is only what we have allocated out of Measure J, 400,000. And the drinking fountains came in at almost 17,000. And then we had allocated 1 million for the shade structure. And then I think it was at the December meeting, we had voted on putting the remaining balance to the FIS project.
Thank you. Questions?
Chris, does this include measure D?
There's Measure D. Ed, can I just add one thing before, Victoria, before you go into this? I don't believe that the Measure J Commission has approved the FIS dollar amount, but we can add that to a future agenda for sure.
So total for the FIS is around 2 million for both of those different funds. 2 million plus.
Yes, yes.
And this is to build the temporary FIS facility as fast as we can.
This is, it can be used in a number of ways. The thinking behind it originally was to support the operating costs, the initial user fee cost of Customs and Border Protection officers. But it can be applied, if the commission, provides that information, can be applied for the temporary facility itself, or designed for, any of those programs.
Since this topic has been brought up, is just any updates in terms of any progress we're making on the staffing side of the equation? Because at an earlier meeting, we said that was what's getting in the way, not necessarily these funds for a temporary facility, but can we find the staff? Is there any progress on that?
We're talking about Customs and Border Protection staff.
Yeah.
Yes, we're working with our own consultant on that, as well as with Wayne Olson from Economic Development, and actually more recently now Scott White with Visitor Service.
The ending balance is as of what date?
It would be as of quarter 4, 2024 for both of them. There's a little typo on one on Measure D, but it's quarter 4, 2024.
So there's ongoing punishment of our allocation of measure J.
Every quarter,
That's in process now.
yes,
So 0 is not really 0. 0
Correct.
Plus what's.
but we don't have that, yeah, we don't have that right now,
To be clear,
yes.
numbers, thank you.
We're collecting taxes along the way. So there's always more that's going into these funds. And for those of you who are new, funds that are generated for both of these programs on the airport have to be spent at the airport. So while we do want to go to Measure J, and Chris, you're probably better informed about that whole process, those funds have to be spent here at the airport. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions of the public on this?
Anyone on Zoom from the public wish to make a public comment? No public comment.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, concessions update, Jeremy. Oh, no, the review committee. Commissioner Hedrick, you want to give us the full commission update on our meetings this afternoon?
Yes, we had a long discussion about the various projects that are underway. And Victoria, sorry, the gentleman,
Harmon,
Carmen,
Project
and
manager.
the executive director of the airport told us where we were and how we're moving forward. Thank you.
Any questions from other budget committee members? Any other comments?
Anyone from the public wish to make a public comment? Anyone on Zoom wish to make a public comment? Please raise your virtual hand. No public comment.
Some great progress there today. All right, concessions update, Jeremy.
Yeah, let me figure out how to share it here.
Here's the approximate schedule. You can see everything's completed here. The next couple are Trio and Vino Bolo. I have plugged in Trio for a 4/11 opening, although we think it'll probably open us a little sooner than that. Right now, Heritage is targeting April 1, April 2, somewhere around there to open Trio. So they're really pushing hard to do that right now. They're working, believe it or not, 24 hours a day. They have crews at night, crews during the day, crews on the weekends. They have crews overlapping each other. They're really pushing hard to hit April 1, but just conservatively, I have 4/11 for Trio. And then Vino Bolo is about a week after that, but they are they are targeting a little bit sooner than 4/18. So those are the next two ones that we're excited to have open and be open for, hopefully the majority of April rush. I'm gonna share a few photos here. Here's kind of, this is Trio kind of in progress. And even since these photos, there's actually a lot more that's been completed, but believe it or not, they're only a couple weeks behind. Here's a couple additional photos of Trio inside old Santa Rosa. Here's the back, where they're doing the kitchen and installing all the kitchen equipment. And then just kind of a picture of the barricade and then what it's gonna look like when it's open. And then Vino Bolo, this is kind of behind the scenes barricade that not everybody gets to see. You can kind of see what's looking outside of the patio. Inside, they're starting to make some progress. And then this is what it's going to look like when it's done. That's it. Any questions?
I have a question, please. Do we have any sort of operating fees on the existing restaurants and kind of how they're performing, how they're doing? Do we get that kind of feedback? How do we know that what's open is meeting, expectations, that sort of thing?
We do have that. Victoria has that information. Actually, I think she's pulling it up now.
Yeah, I was trying to see if it's on the financials.
But what if it's more like a report card?
So they do every single month, they will report to us, their percentage of sales. So, WH Smith, which is our retail, they give us 20% sales, of gross sales. And then, Parodies, our food and beverage, gives us 15%, for food and then 12% for alcohol. So they do report that. I can probably find the number and then tell everybody later on.
Okay.
To respond to your question.
Question, what are the operating hours of 9 cities?
Hey, do you guys have a chance to know that?
Yeah, give me a second. It's 4:30 AM is the last light.
It was closed at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon with all the barriers shut. So I'm wondering if we get reporting from our vendors when they're shutting facilities here.
We're supposed to.
They're not supposed to shut them without my approval.
It's closed when I came in,
In the
Thanks for
morning,
letting us know.
in the evening,
no, 5 PM.
5 PM.
I was
And there
a
were
little
still
surprised.
flights, there was still
That
flights.
was,
Yeah.
and I sent you those pictures, which we'll cover later.
We'll,
Yeah, 5 PM.
we'll run that down.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
letting us know.
So, but then it raises a larger question, which is, do they report to the airport when they're closing facilities like that? Because I also was told recently, like last week, of the same facility not being open in the morning when people were leaving and looking for food, so maybe people don't like working there or something.
Yeah, so they're not supposed to close the facilities without my approval. Usually there has to be a good justification for it, whether it's lack of staffing or something's wrong with the facility. And they're supposed to be contacting our control center, who's supposed to reach out to one of the management team to get approval to do that.
I will say that, there is a transition in the general management staff, but Clary's absolutely right.
Do you want to be more specific about that?
We previously had a general manager and, she's no longer with Parodies, so the regional manager has came in and taken over. And then I'm not sure why it was closed, we weren't informed about it, but Harry's absolutely right, they should run it by us. If it's a request, which sometimes it does happen, where if it's raining, they'll request to close Cactus to Clouds because it's an open door area, right? If it's too hot, when we used to have the wine bar open, we would shut that down. So there are times where they will request it and we will grant that, but, we'll make sure that the new general manager is aware of it, so. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Any updates on the retail spaces? Are we seeing improvements in terms of the promotion of local brands?
Yes, we are. We have recently received some feedback that, some of the performance metrics for, the pink door, which is the one that's downstairs, it's not performing as high as they had anticipated with the coffee there and the products that are being sold there. So what they're anticipating to do is, to change out some of the products that they're selling. They even from something as small as changing it from, you know, this kind of water to like a Fiji water. They're looking at that. Even though that store may not be performing as well, right at the moment, they said overall that the retail is doing really, really good, outperforming what they had originally anticipated. So I can get you some numbers a little bit later.
The ad hoc committee concessions. There was a big discussion in our last meeting about the percentage of sales that's committed to local vendors. And we wanted to have a look and feel on the president of local vendors and all the retail locations. Their target is 15%, they were about 11%. And they were going to continue to do things both in terms of merchandising and other things to promote the local vendors, to try to move it towards closer to 15%. I think what we wanted was 20%, but we're gonna see how that comes along. Just a couple feedback I received on Pink Door. All they do is coffee. So things like iced tea are not available, chai tea is not available. And feedback I got from a couple of people is, you know, that their expectations of a full coffee shop would have a lot more products. And some of the stuff like, you know, iced tea and stuff like that is so basic. Chai tea may involve some storage space, but feedback we're getting also from their employees, they're kind of struggling and saying that's all we have. So I'd love to see them expand and see this menu if they make the changes to include some of those things you'd expect with other coffee shops.
We can connect with the WH team.
Let us know. All right, other questions about the concessions and where we are? Can't wait to see Trio a little bit, that would be great. Any public comments here or online?
If anyone online wishes to make a public comment, please raise your virtual Zoom hand. No public comments.
All right, let's go for it. Thank you. Daniel, marketing update.
Good afternoon. So we're off to a good start for the year. Passenger numbers for January and February are up 5.3% January, 1.2% in February. Both are now new record months for us, so a good start to the year. Just some general updates of pricing news you guys have been hearing. We've received some updates of air service from Canada. Flair Airlines has decided to shorten their season to Palm Springs. They're going to end on April 6th this year to the end of April. They've cited significant decline in U.S. bookings caused by the current political situation. Other Canadian airlines are also seeing weakening demand for travel to the U.S. overall, not just Palm Springs. Additionally, the Canadian dollar is weakening against the U.S. dollar, which is making it even more expensive for Canadians to travel to the U.S. We spoke with all of our Canadian carriers. None of our other seasonal routes are being shortened. But some Canadian airlines are considering reducing summer capacity overall to the United States. I have no details that will be impacted. Our two year-round Canadian routes are Calgary and Vancouver, both operated by WestJet on a year-round service, and they are still evaluating what they may do right now. So I don't have an update at the moment on any summer impacts yet. They did give us a bit of some good news, is that we have a little relief for Palm Springs. Overall, while demand is down in the US, it's not as down as much for Palm Springs because of our second home ownership. So people are still going to come visit their home. So it is a bit of a plus for us to kind of give this a bit of a buffer. It's not seeing as much of a decline as other US destinations are. In the U. So other information, some US airlines are also reducing summer flying because they're seeing weakening demand. Most major airlines are reducing revenue forecasts because of weakening demand with the current climate that's going on. United also announced 2 weeks ago they're accelerating the retirement of 21 aircraft due to weakening demand. But all is not negative on this slide. Chicago O'Hare, American Airlines, is going to operate that until June 4th of this year. Last year they ended on May 4th, so a full month of additional Chicago service, which is great. United is going to operate Chicago until June 11th. Last year they ended on May 23rd, so we're getting increases Chicago from both carriers. Chicago is one of the target markets we're working to switch to year round, so we keep communicating with both United and American. And so far it's working, and what they're doing is they're closing in the shoulders and adding maybe a month or a few weeks on either end each year. So for instance, this year they started, or like this season, they started in early September. The year before that was in October, so we're kind of tightening in, and eventually might be able to flip Chicago to a year-round destination. It's a big goal of ours. Alaska Airlines announced they are taking Portland to year-round, which is great news. It's been seasonal since before COVID. That was another big push for us to visit Greater Palm Springs to return that route to not to year-round service, so that's excellent news. And also I found out this week that United, their LAX service, which typically returns in October of each year around Halloween, this season they're going to start on August 19th. Which is definitely some additional growth for us. I also reached out to them and let them know that if they can add up 6 weeks onto the season and end just after July 4th, and they qualify for incentives for converting to year-round service, we could get some incentive dollars to promote that sooner. I reached out to them yesterday, haven't heard back yet, but still trying to talk to them about maybe converting LAX to year-round service. Not so much for, locals going to LA, but just for that connectivity for Trans-Pacific, Hawaii, Australia, etc. So just more connection opportunities for people to be able to choose to fly from Palm Springs. So looking ahead, seats for the year are looking really good. April's up 10% compared to last year. May's up 8%. June's up 15.5%. July's up over 20% compared to last summer. A lot of that is due to Frontier Airlines coming in with their new year-round service, Alaska's new year-round service to Portland, and Allegiant taking year-round service to Bellingham, because Bellingham, I remember previously it was a seasonal route, and it's not going to year round as well. So we're having some good wins on the seat capacity. So hopefully any weakening demand or any potential recession doesn't hit us too hard. So but we have the seats there, and we can hopefully try and fill them. I a little bit mixed bag on this one. The roadway banners, which you guys know for a long time, many of the brackets were broken. We put up RFP, found a company to replace the brackets and put up all these beautiful brand new banners. But the 45-mile-an-hour winds earlier this week and the 2 windstorms the 2 weeks ahead of that basically destroyed a lot of the new banners. The vendor we're working with is new to doing banners for us. We stress the importance of making sure they're secure in wind. They told us they understood, but their first round of banners did not really hold up. We found that the thread wasn't strong enough and the stitching was not correct. But we're working with them, and the vendor's coming out the week of March 31st to do a full replacement of all the banners they've had there. So before we get into April, month of April, we should have them all back in fresh banners. So all Coachella people come, we'll have something nice to see instead of bad, torn up banners. I was excited about those too, then win. Something else great, the Agua Caliente activation space is complete. If you guys have time after this and get a visitor pass from our stay and play program, walk down there and take a look at it. It's an excellent space that we see people are really utilizing it. It's got 20 power outlets in it, great seating, and it's a really nice complement to the space. Fuse Connect and their partners and Agua Caliente did an excellent job putting this together. Even the palm trees, while they are not real, they look very real and actually feel almost as if they're real. So go touch them. Customer experience program update. So we are well underway with that. PSM Square, the vendor that's developing a plan for us. They were up to a site visit this week. They held meetings with all of our airlines, our rental car partners, the concessions, both retail and food and beverage. They met with TSA and a variety of other PSP tenants to do surveys and ask questions and do some research. They also met with airport staff from all levels, from the executive team to the very front line. So they're really doing great in-depth work to find out about our culture and how we can improve the customer experience, get everybody from airport to airlines to rental cars to really just bring that Palm Springs hospitality home here to our terminal. They also met with city council, city leadership. They're meeting with, I believe, Scott Stiles next week and Teresa. They've met with Visit Greater Palm Springs staff as well. Also during the site visit, they did a full tour of the terminal complex and actually spent time walking around the terminal to the gate, to the baggage claim, to the front, the parking lots, just doing observations of the passengers and the passenger movement, trying to see where pinch points are and how we might be able to make some improvements with the existing facilities. They're now currently working to schedule meetings with commission leadership. So the commission leadership would be chair and vice chair, and then the chair of each of the subcommittees of the commission. And then after that, they'll be sending surveys to all commissioners, so every commissioner can participate. They're also be sending surveys, both internal and external, to all airline staff, rental car staff, different stakeholders outside of the airport and with like Palm Springs Hospitality Association. They're also gonna be with the Palm Springs Convention Center, and they're gonna start reaching out down valley to various chambers of commerce, Rancho Mirage, La Quinta, Indian Wells, and a few others to get some more feedback from throughout the valley on how we can really bring a great experience to Palm Springs. And next up, the 2024 annual report went out last month. There's a printed copy on the table for it, if you guys all loved it. We have 2,100 page views in just 2 weeks, which is well ahead of what we did last year with it. We also got some great media coverage for us, about $1.18 million worth of value, free PR, because of the reach from that we got promoted on MSN, My News LA, and some coverage from KESQ TV as well. So good publicity for the airport. And our email campaign was excellent. We had a 72% open rate, 9% click-through rate, far above our averages of our typical newsletter. So people were really interested in seeing what we've been up to and learning about all the great work that the airport and the commission are doing for our community. And last up this morning, we had a media kickoff event, a press release for our partnership with Desert Arc, celebrating our new and inclusive employment partnership. We had a march from the airport, city, and Desert Arc, and we had to do courtyard tour. We had Desert Arc and their staff out there doing work and showing people what they're doing for us. If you're not familiar with Desert Arc, they are an organization that gives opportunities for employment for individuals with disabilities. So it's really a great way for us to be a more inclusive airport and city, and so we're excited to celebrate that today. And that's all I have. Do we have any questions?
Questions or comments?
Three thumbs up on that Desert Arc. Thank you. I can't take credit for that. I'll send Harry and commission for that, and the council.
Other questions or comments for Daniel and team? The Daniel report was great. Really, really well done.
Thank you.
That was really nice to see. And I also want to do a shout out to our partners at Hughes. I know these guys were up late in the night, working on the installation of the Agua Caliente concourse. We really thank you for all the effort you guys made in not only getting to the deal, but now to the activation. I had a couple friends who flew out this morning and sent pictures, and it was busy and it looks great. It's come a long way. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. Any other comments from the public?
Anyone on Zoom from the public wish to make a public comment, please raise your virtual hand. No public comments.
Victoria, financial update, please.
All right, so I have the financials in the packet. I can go through the 4 different funds just to advise where we're at, either in the surplus or a deficit. I'll show it on the screen if that's okay. All right. So Fund 405, which is our customer facility charge fund, we're operating at a surplus of 4.8 million. That's about 91% of the 2025 budget. Passenger facility charge fund 410. This is for the facility charges that we collect from the airlines that they remit to us. We have a surplus in that account as well. It's 3.4 million. Fund 415, which is our airport operations and maintenance, we currently have a surplus of about 7 million. You'll see on the next page that goes into a little bit more detail that we have some areas that we have increased significantly. One area is the advertising. You'll see that that is 95% of the budget and 61% higher than it was previously. So our advertising use company is doing very well for themselves and for the airport here. You also see that our on-airport rental cars, we have about $8 million that we've received from them from their revenue share, which is about 43% up when compared to prior year. One that looks completely outrageous, which is the rental car overflow parking. You'll see that it's up 348%. What that means is whenever we've gotten really busy over like holidays and weekends, we've been We had the rental cars have additional vehicles, additional inventory that they had to park before it was getting rented out to the passengers. So, that actually, we were gaining revenue off of that. We received like $2 and some change per vehicle per day. So, we're doing really well there. And then, lastly is our airport capital projects. You'll see that we have received about 10 million in revenue. Our expenses are about 8.3, so we're operating at a surplus of 1.7 million.
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Yes?
I see parking revenues are down 5%,
Yes.
and with the jungle mess and the lots outside, I find that surprising, but were we supposed to have a parking fee increase?
Yes, actually, we were supposed to have a parking fee increase. However, we've been working with the city finance department. We want to take that fee increase with our the city's comprehensive fee schedule. That's anticipated to go, I think, in April or May. So the fee increase has not taken place yet for us. However, we have noticed the different mode of transportation shift to like TNCs and other ground transportation parkings or Uber, Lyft, commercial vehicles, Turo vehicles, things like that. So we've seen a shift a little.
And could some of that be because of the difficulty in parking at the airport?
Because of what?
The difficulty in parking?
That in part could be some of it. Also, I think a large driving factor of it is we lost a lot of summer demand, so people that were parking over the summer. We didn't have those aircraft coming in, so that probably contributed to it as well.
Thank you.
Please.
I'm noticing that, passenger loading bridge fees and the baggage handling fees are also a little bit down. I'm wondering whether you could give us just a thumbnail explanation of what those are, how we collect them, and why they're down.
Absolutely. So the passenger loading bridge fees are for the loading bridges that you see at the Bono gates.
Those are the jet bridges.
The jet bridges, so there's 8 of them, so we charge per use to each airline that uses them. So as long as an airline's using them, we charge a flat fee to them based off of what the rates and charges that we came up with the budget. The baggage handling system fees, that's also another fee that it's whatever the operational cost that we projected for the VHS, we turned around and we told the airlines, hey, we're gonna charge you this amount here. So it is less than last year because last year when we had calculated the operational cost, we calculated them higher than what they really were. So that's why you'll see that drop of 23% and 43%.
And then in terms of the jet bridges, is that because of fewer flights?
I'm not sure if it's because of fewer flights because that is like one of our busiest concourses. I do know that the airlines are getting charged per use. So if our operations are going down, which actually, when you compare it to 2023, there were less aircraft operations in 2023 compared to, less aircraft operations in 2024 when compared to 2023 fiscal year.
Is that because of larger planes?
That's
what we have been told.
Yeah, if you help me out here.
So larger planes, more cities, fewer uses of.
Yeah, we're seeing bigger planes coming in, so there's months we'll have increases in seats, we'll actually have a slight decrease in the number of flights actually coming. But this summer, if you remember the seat, what I showed you, we're actually have more flights and seats this coming summer, so that should flip back to the positive.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I have two-part question. One, looking at the passenger data that's in the package, year to date, our passenger counts is about 2 million, essentially flat with last year. Okay, so first, can you just high level explain why if we have flat passengers, airline revenue is up 50% year over year? And then if we have flat passengers, why are our expenses up 23% year over year?
Yes, so our budget is calculated, or the airline rates and charges are calculated based off whatever budget we came up with at the beginning of the year. So it's pre-calculated, then at the end of the year, if we overcharge the airlines, technically, we would offer them a credit. So, even though our passengers are flat, we still, with what we budgeted, that's what we charge the airlines.
Okay. And then expenses are just head count.
Let me look at expenses. So, for expenses, we actually have, a lot of contractual services that we've had. Some of them were due to, our Part 139 inspection. We needed to make sure that the airfield was up and with regulations. So there are some contractual services there. We talked a little bit about it earlier at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, that we have contractual services for aviation worker screening, which is something that is a regulatory requirement with TSA. So where we're now screening employees as well as passengers, so that we can make sure we have that second safety component there. So there are some additions in contractual services.
And then the last part, sorry. It looks like this year probably will be, 3.25 million passengers, just like last year, just like the year before. So if we have a 3-year plateau of passengers, does that give us pause on our airport expansion plans, timing, needs, anything like that? Because a lot of us have been concerned that we had a COVID bump, and we may not continue to grow like we had all hoped in those plans. So I'd like some feedback on how we still think those projections for the next 20 years are reasonable.
So, I mentioned earlier to the finance committee that we're projecting pretty conservatively, mostly because of the political climate and the impacts on the airline. In part, as Daniel spoke to, we have a reduction, or we're starting to see a trend in reduction in Canadian demand. We also have, the essentially trade wars now, the tariffs that are being implemented that are impacting both Boeing and Airbus production in their delivery of aircraft to the airlines. The airlines are cutting domestic capacity right now. So the airport's taking a very cautious approach, at least for the next year, to see kind of where we land. And then we'll go from there. There are some projects that we think are priority and critical that need to be done regardless of if we see a drop in demand. That's going to be the outbound baggage handling system and the rental car facility specifically, just because those are existing challenges that we don't see going away. I also don't think that even if we do see demand fall off this year, I don't think it'll fall off as much as other airports. And I do think we'll probably, like we did during the pandemic, we'll probably recover pretty quickly from that.
The other thing is the city is making progress on the convention center, the expansion of the convention center. There's high level of confidence they found a way to fund it through 4 different ways to fund it. But critical to that, and that process will happen over 3 or 4 years. We also think the expectation is the lift that will be required to service the additional conventions that we hope to have in that center, the newly renovated center, will also have an impact just in terms of demand into Palm Springs. So if we're building a new convention center, or building onto the convention center, we think that will also have an impact on demand above and beyond what we're seeing right now. So there's an anticipation as we move forward with that project. We need to be thoughtful about how we'll have enough support to provide seats to get people to Palm Springs to use the convention center. So it can have an impact as well.
Is there any data point or sequential number of years where traffic isn't growing like we expected in the master plan, that you would have to revisit those plans?
Yeah, there are a couple of data points. So Brasfed has they provide us actually monthly reports on what's happening with the national and local trends happening with demand on what that looks like. So we can see in near real time what we need to be planning for. On the master plan side, what we had projected were certain thresholds to actually execute projects. And if we thought we would not meet those thresholds, take a pause, stand back and see where we end up after a few months or maybe a year.
Is that passenger levels, like thresholds?
Yep.
Okay.
The passenger levels. And so some of those we've already blown through. In fact, it was like 5 years ago, which is what's driving some of the baggage stuff and the rental car stuff. Others like the planning for the North Concourse expansion. Right now, it's wait and see for me on who will end up there.
Other questions? Victoria, any other comments?
No.
Okay, public comments here or online?
Anyone on Zoom wish to make a public comment, please raise your virtual Zoom hand and so. No public comments.
Great, Harry, let's have an employment update, please.
Sure, so nothing much has changed from the last month with the employment update. We have had interviews for the deputy director of capital development, and actually their final round interviews are scheduled for tomorrow. So we had three really promising candidates that we decided to bring back after a first round panel. One coming from Minneapolis, the other one is coming from Texas, and the third is currently in the UAE. And so we're gonna let those individuals tomorrow and see if they've got the skills and they're a good fit for this organization, and then go from there. The SMS manager position, we're still working on that. You recall, we made a couple offers there, and those offers were declined. So Jeremy is working on that recruitment. We've gone back to the board, and I believe we have the interview scheduled for next week.
We had to adjust salary levels to make them more competitive.
We did that position did not get a salary bump. So we'll see what happens next week. And then three other of our kind of critical positions: the security manager position, emergency management coordinator, and sustainability specialist, and a handful of our maintenance positions. Right now, they're being vetted with the associations, the unions. So we're just kind of waiting for that process to clear up.
Questions on where we are? Questions from the public?
In the room or on Zoom, if on Zoom, please raise your virtual Zoom hand. No public comment.
Sounds good. Harry, want to do an update of the capital improvement plan program?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna turn this back over to Harmon so that you can get the presentation of where we were earlier to the board.
You know what, if you don't mind, Commissioner Corcoran, while Harmon's getting ready to log in, can I address your question, Commissioner Banks? So, in regards to the retail, the year-over-year increase it's 40% for retail. And then, there's a decrease of about 8% for food and beverage, but that's attributed to not all of their stores being open.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
So just a heads up on this presentation. This is presented to the budget subcommittee. And some of this is difficult to read, so you may want to get closer or go a little slower. And for those of us up here, you should look here, because there's a lot of information here, but it may be a little bit tough. We agreed in future presentations, we're going to have hard copies so you can follow along. All right, let's go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, my name is Harvard Singh, project manager. So this, Mr. Chair said, was presented to the Budget and Finance Committee, and the staff got some good feedback and guidance from the committee chief and the committee. So this presentation we divided into three different divisions. We'll do some visual aspect of the project. So we'll talk about the terminal improvement that we're doing, the air side and the land side. The goal is to make more visual impact of it, and also will detail about what project is going on, what is the next step, who's the project manager, what is the budget, and these are the critical projects that we're working on and also open for discussion. So with this, we'll start with the airside terminal improvement. The first one is the Albuquerque activation. As Danny already mentioned, this is already up and running. We are also working on a Measure J project that is spoken earlier, which is the outdoor concrete furniture, the mid-century one. We're also updating the conference room we are sitting in here, which is the aging infrastructure. And these are all the types of different projects customer experience, aging infrastructure, on a regulatory basis. For the next fiscal year, we're replacing the elevators. We're also working on the bridge gate construction project, and also terminal restroom design continues. And so far for 2027, we're working on replacement of the escalator and also the main terminal, which is a Measure J, part of which would be Measure J, which is a travel replacement. This right here is the visual presentation of our terminal, and I'll show how these improvements are happening throughout the terminal. This is where the Albuquerque activation space, that's our regional concourse. Our outdoor concrete furniture is going outside the Wexler entrance, the terminal entrance right there. We are having 10 benches, 6 receptacles and 2 planters / benches over there. This is the upgrade of the conference room where we are sitting right now. The elevator replacement will be happening at Bono and also outside the TCA screening, right next to our stairs. Breach gate construction is another terminal project that we're working on. And here are the terminal restrooms that the project we're working on. And one of the questions that the committee has about the improvement, so currently we have about 49 total stalls at the terminal. We are updating it to 73. So we are adding about 24 more restroom stalls in different locations that we have discussed in detail. So I just want to give an update to the committee. Here is the escalator replacement at the Bono concourse. And finally, our replacement of the floor or the carpeting at the main terminal. Then this slide shows our airport site improvements. There are 3 big projects: capacity based, safety based, and economic development. One of them is the main runway, which is 31L and 13R. We're doing the analysis, alternative construction analysis on that. We are also working on our hangar 1, which is the federal inspection services. It's a temporary FIS facility, and also our baggage handling project, which is going on right now. This gives you, the next slide, it's a little slower, hopefully, yes. It gives you a visual where these airside improvements are happening. Here's our runway alternative analysis. This is the location for our baggage handling system and the temporary FIS facility that we are working on. Similarly, the next slide shows the landside improvement. We have many projects going on, 10 projects. We are working on a PDR, which is a project definition report for a temporary rental car relocation. We are working on getting 8 zero emission pickup trucks. We are working on the parking and revenue control system along with our Conrec. Conrec is our first step towards the big picture. It's going to be the programming and design of the Conrec. With the Conrec, we are also working on relocating the Signature Aviation, because right now the location where our Conrec will go, the Signature Aviation goes over there. And also we are getting some extra vehicle charging stations at our main parking lot, shade structure for the TNC and the taxis. That's a Measure J project we're working on. And also we are getting some battery electric buses and also parking for the public, which I'll show on the visually that how that kind of comes to play. And also we are working on a landscape design and construction for the land site is all over the airport on Kirk Douglas, Ramon. And also the relocation of the USO, which is part of the master plan and the Conrec. This slide shows some visualization of the projects. This is the area where we are projecting to relocate our rental car. We are doing a PDR design and subsequently we'll do the construction of it. This is where our parking and revenue control system will be going, which is the main parking lot, more technology savvy system. This is the contract programming and project definition. Again, it's where the Signature Aviation is. So we are working hand in hand with that project also, because we cannot go far in one project and other project stays back, because there's a lot of interdependency on each project. So we have to be mindful that all projects are moving along at different phases. This one is the charging station for the electric vehicles. We are working with Southern California Edison. It's going to be 80 charging points at lot B on the main parking lot. These are some of the, as I said, the Measure J, where the shade structures are going for TNC and the taxis. This one is the public parking initial study. As you can see that if our temporary rental car is relocated where our overflow parking is right now, we need to provide some kind of parking to the public. So again, interdependency of the project. So we have to be mindful that, we are doing due diligence to provide all that extra parking for the public if we are taking some spaces away from the public. And this one is the landscape conversion. Is a multiple location project where we will be taking the turf out and have more desert friendly landscaping. As I said, this is throughout the vicinity of the land side of the airport. This is a very important slide. It gives us the summary of where we are. The first is the conference room project. As Christina mentioned, we are finalizing our construction drawings. We expected to start the construction in April, hopefully by done in July. It's a $300,000 project, as Victoria mentioned. Our collective activation space is done. It was about $70,000 project. Angle one assessment is the initial assessment, which is the first phase of the study or design. The proposal is about $95,000. We are evaluating. The next step is to issue a task order. Same thing for the rental car relocation. We are working on a project definition report, and I'll explain these different phases as we go through this slide. We'll be working on reviewing that one, and then hopefully by end of this month, we will issue a task order to our on-call planning consultants. The Wexler concrete furniture installation, as I mentioned in my report for Measure J, that we are expecting these to be delivered in June, July. So we should be having that furniture here sometime by mid-year this year. And the runway reconstruction analysis is also a project. It is a $476,000 for initial analysis of the project. It's phase one. Might go into phase two depending on what the outcome is of initial analysis. And the last one is the terminal restroom design, which is design phase is $2.3 million. And we are actually doing, we just completed an independent fee estimate. So as I explained into our meeting, so anytime a project, a proposal is over a threshold of $100,000 and it may be attached to a FAA budget, we have to do an independent fee estimate, which is a third party. So for example, for the terminal restroom project, the proposal which was given to us by a consultant was $2.3 million. So we did an independent cost estimate where we provide them all this scope, discounting the cost, what their labor rates are and all this stuff. So they do an independent cost estimate, which has to be under industry, plus minus 5 to 7%. So that's how we make sure that, the quote that is given to us is a reasonable quote. And we did complete that independent fee estimate on it. It was within that range. As I'm mentioning about the different phases of the project, and I'll take an example of the temporary rental car relocation. So currently, we have the first thing we do on any project which has a big magnitude and big footprints. We do an initial study, which is defining the project. How the project looks like. That gives a starting point to our design and environmental phase. That how much design needs to be done, whether we'll go with what kind of construction approach we are having. Is it a design build or a design build? It also dictates how much environmental studies we have to do and how detailed environmental study has to be, especially if the land is not being touched. Then we talk about different bidding phases of the project, where the permits has to be reviewed by the city. We have to submit the permit. There are some conditions that has to be fulfilled as we are moving along with the project. And also then the construction procurement starts and then the final construction starts. So there's a process how these are come together to execute a project. And I'll have some timelines for visuals also that I can share. This one is another set of projects that we are working for FY29. Elevators is the project, as I showed you on the terminal side. We are expecting these to be replaced by mid-year this year. The pickup of eight pickup trucks, it's a federal grant that we received under zero emission vehicles from FAA. It has a really strict guideline on how the advertisement of the project has to be. So we actually have a scope done, verified by the FAA last month, and now we are working with the city fleet to put these trucks to advertise so we can get these trucks delivered. We are expecting these to be go out bid in April, which is next month this year. For the breach grade construction project, the bids were due this month. We did not receive any bids for this one. So our goal is as you can see, the budget is about $4 million. So airlines input is needed. So we'll take it to the airlines in May to see if we can have their buy-in and how we can budget this or this project. The baggage handling system construction, as you can see, it's a mega project. It's a 3-year long project, $75 million. The bids are actually due tomorrow. If the bids are favorable, we evaluate the bids. We're taking it to the city council in April or May this year. The next one is our big project. We're starting off a big project, which is the rental car contract north side initial study, programming and PDR. We will be issuing getting a proposal from the engineering on-call engineering firm, hopefully this month. And then, as I said, we have to do an independent fee estimate on them. We have to verify the process, and hopefully by mid-May we should have some task order issued. The parking and revenue control system, the staff is working with our ABM, who are currently the subcontractor for the parking. We are actually working them to install that system over there, and hopefully by end of this year, we should have some kind of new technical system installed for the parking and revenue control system. And finally, on our signature aviation move, as I explained earlier, this has to start, discussion needs to start right now. But as we are doing other projects, which is dependent on their location, if they have to relocate it, so the initial discussions have been started with the airport. And the last one is not the last, the for FY 27 is the escalator. As I said, it shows it did not start. However, the staff is already doing some due diligence. Because when we initially looked into this project, the budget was 1.5. Last commission meeting, when our maintenance superintendent was talking to some of our vendors, they were thinking about $2 million. So what our direction was given from our executive directors, why don't we have on-call engineering team look into the scope of it? How big is the scope? Do we have to look into the footings? You know, how big is this project? How big is the budget that we need? You know, if we have some concrete information about this project, it will give us a more idea and more, skin towards doing this project. And also we will be talking to the airlines to bring this project. So this project is already in due diligence for the staff, and we are using as many tools as we have to make sure that we scope it well and we finance it well and we have a good number to go after. And also the timeline is very critical, how long this will do. Is it like a 90-day project? Is it a 6 month project? So that all depends on structure, engineering, and that's why we have the on-call engineering team to help us facilitate that. This is the timeline that I was mentioning on different phases. This is very baseline timeline, just to give a visual to the commissioners that how these projects come to line. So this is our restroom design and construction project timeline I use as an example. The vertical line that you are looking at is where we are currently right now. So we are actually issuing a task order for a design. If that goes through, it takes about 4 weeks for design phase. As I said, this can go more towards right, it can go more towards left. It's very baseline right now, so they will do the design. This particular project is a design bid build. What that means is that the architect is working for us to complete 100% drawings. Once they have the drawings, they will submit to the city for a plan check and get all the conditions that city will provide to make sure that, those are fulfilled. And then they will also help us during the bidding phase to answer any question that the general contractors might have on this project. And then after, we have to execute a contract with the general contractor, and then the construction phase starts. With the committee meeting, we talked about phasing out these, if we can look into options, that's what our team will be looking into, how we can make sure that, if this can be phased, how we can phase it in a way which is not too much. As you can know, that is the 2.3 is the design phase only. We have some estimate on the construction, how the construction cost will be, but we will be using more resources on our on-call to make sure that, it's beneficial for the airport. This is the baggage handling system construction project. As you can see that the first year is more utility work that they have to do to make sure that utilities are ready, the electricals are ready, and then the actual installation part of the construction for the equipment will start in 2026. So 1 year is the construction part of just for the utility and the sites to bring the power to here and making sure that, all the utilities are ready for the actual equipment to install. This goes all the way to 2028. It's a multi-year project. It's a heavy dollar amount project also, but this is just a basic timeline that we have, or a baseline timeline that we refer to our general contractors with the bid documents. The last timeline I would like to share is for the temporary rental car relocation. As you heard, this is a very critical project. So if our PDR process, which is the project definition report, starts, we are looking at about 4 months of just for that. What the result from that initial report will tell us how the design and environmental phase of this project will go. We are estimating about 6 months for design and environmental. Then we'll go to the permitting process with the city, and of course then bidding and the construction. So this is again a very baseline. We haven't started the PDR yet. So once these are more clear, it can go either way. But that's what our estimate is with our on-call engineers, that this is how the time frame will work. This is again, thanks to Daniel's team and Fuel's advancement, we have this activation space ready for us, and you can see it's been, well used. And with this, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. Thank you.
Lots of information. Questions? Please, Sam.
Thank you for the presentation, Harvey. I know kind of aligning with what we were talking about regarding parking rates. I think a few meetings ago, we discussed the idea of potentially looking at something that could be flexible down the road. Are we future proofing this tech with an eye towards potentially earning higher rates like on a day like today? You know, and we're lowering them during summer.
Yes, so that's the plan, and that's what we've scoped. We also had to do a little bit of research because California law is very specific about how public agencies can charge rates. It has to be on a cost recovery land use method, so we had to really dig into it to see how we could creatively do that, and we think we have an answer for it, but that took some work.
Your comments or questions? David?
Waiting for commissioner comments, because it's separate from, related but separate.
So, any other questions? And I'll just update it on where we landed in the budget committee. So in the budget subcommittee, we agreed that we will review all of these projects, who's assigned to them in timelines, and any movement on these projects on a quarterly basis. Ken and the team will report back to the community. We shared our hopes that we'll be able to hit the targets for these projects. And but we'll monitor the progress on a quarterly basis to report back to everybody. And Harmon, thank you. This is a great first shot. I think we appreciate your leadership on this. And if there's no other questions, I'll go to the public.
Are there any public comments in the room? Anyone that wishes to make a public comment in the room or on Zoom? If on Zoom, please raise your virtual Zoom hand. No public comments.
Awesome. Here, your executive report, please.
There's a report that I provided in the agenda. Most of it really has to do with what's happening at DC and how that's impacting the airport right now. Certainly, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that. But the written report is there for you for use.
This is redundant, we just chatted about, but let me just give you a moment to go through if there's any other questions. The parking electrification, I know on the notes it says here that they're gonna have proposals from them in the winter of 23. Do we feel now that we're a little closer to getting that done with Southern Edison?
We do, so I think it's this council meeting actually, that we're planning on sending an easement for approval to the city council. And then we are, doing an RFP to solicit services for the installation of chargers, which we already know in. And that would allow us to then install the chargers that we had under the SCE grant. Separate from that, the airport was anticipating doing an electrification study, not only to expand and future-proof our parking lots for electric services, but also airside as well. So we're looking at electric GSE and the potential to service electric aircraft in the future on the air side. So we need to do a study to accommodate that. So we're in the process of that.
Can you describe how the chargers would work with, are they free or does someone pay by the hour? And is somebody gonna plug in and be there for a week?
Yeah, so right now, so we've had 2 years to kind of stew on this, mostly because we're waiting on SDE to get back to us with some paperwork. Right now, the idea is to recover our electrical costs through some type of per hour charge on the services. So we haven't quite filed that in yet. We're still having to work with Nebraska on that, but that's the idea.
So how do you keep someone from grinding on Friday, parking and leaving their car, blocking that charger for the full week?
Unfortunately, that's going to be difficult to control. I mean, it happens in airports everywhere. So I don't know if there's a good way to mitigate that. But one of the things that we had discussed was determining what other airports are doing, mitigating that, whether it's via additional charges after a certain hour or certain days, or some other metric, but we haven't decided on what that looks like yet.
And are these level 1, level 2,
Or
or
level 2 chargers,
I'm sorry,
level 2.
what's the difference?
level 1 is basically plugging into an outlet. Level 2 is 3.5 to 10 amps per hour or kilowatts per hour. And above that, you get into the high speed.
So it's faster. So, our friends over at the Air Museum have asked if they could possibly be included in any of this. I know he's looking for chargers. Is there any way to include that or to refer them to Southern Cal Edison in this process?
Yeah, we can certainly refer them. I think there's gonna be a point where we look at electrification airport wide, and what that looks like, because it has to be cohesive and kind of work together. And that's what I was alluding to a little bit earlier about the electrification study. For now, obviously, we've got independent tenants, the Rural Heart Companies, Palm Springs Air Museum, asking to do one-off projects to make that happen, and we're certainly happy to facilitate that. There's gonna have to be a broader discussion about what power usage looks like at the airport.
Other questions, please?
Can you give us a bird's eye view of some of the chaos that's been going on at FAA with the reauthorization? And how that might affect us in a broad way? I know that there's very few specifics. If you could just sort of give us a bird's eye view, that would be helpful.
Yes, so a couple things. So last year, we had an FAA reauthorization bill that went through Congress, which good thing that happened last year because it actually protected us, shielded us from a lot of things that were happening in DC today. That said, one of the issues that we've been tracking very closely and specific to our capital program is how basically the color of money, how money's been moved around in DC, what's been clawed back, what's on the table for reappropriation and budgeting. We believe on the entitlement side, when it comes to our funds, we're pretty safe and secure there because of that FAA reauthorization bill. When it comes to discretionary pots of money, that's where we're starting to see warning signs about we may need to slow down and figure out what's going to happen here. And so, for example, the $6 million terminal grant that was announced last year for Palm Springs, we're a little bit skeptical about whether we're going to see that $6 million because of some of the executive orders that have come out of the presidential administration. The same for some of our TSA grants. Last week, when Congress approved a continuing resolution, the airport lost its LEO reimbursement grant for our police officers. So now we're having to make that up in our operating costs. So that's one element of it. The other is how agencies are being staffed and what's happening with DOGE and what services certain departments are going to be able to provide. Again, aviation is somewhat inoculated on the safety side. That includes air traffic control, certification inspections, things like that. The administration pretty much said, you're safe, you're protected. It's the support staff that we're having the issues with, the aviation planners, project managers, the administrators who actually do the work. That's where we're starting to see the challenges. So when we want to go and lease land, for example, for the airport, we have to go through an entire process, approval process through the FAA to lease land. That process is being bogged down by the loss of federal employees, things like that. So that's how we're being impacted. It's the same on the TSA side. Very similar dynamics.
Are we at this point thinking we're going to lose some TSA staffing?
Not at this point. The TSOs are protected. Again, it's the support staff in the regional offices that we'll worry about.
Thanks.
Other questions on the executive committee report, or executive report? All right, let's move on to, any public comments?
We don't need this section right here.
Commissioner request reports taken.
Okay, two items, one in the regional concourse, and then in there, a couple of times, there, with the activation of the tribal presence, there's only 2 vertical, power stations left. My recollection is there were quite a few more before this. Is there a plan to assess how much power was there before for customers or flyers who are in that area? And how many will be after this space has been recreated? Because it looks a little silly when there's 2 plugs left standing up vertically. I don't even know what the remainder under the seats everywhere.
2 plugs in the center concourse.
No, he's talking about the one, we've always done the.
We've always had one Delta.
Yeah,
Delta.
and Delta.
Oh, the Delta ones, yeah.
There's never been any others.
Never been, well, can we do an assessment of the power that's there, what was there before, and what remains now, to see if it's at least the same, if not better?
We can do the assessment. I don't think anything was removed, but we can double check that.
Okay, thank you. So the other question I have is about cleanliness. As Jeremy knows, I came in yesterday, because you all have 5 PM. I used the bathroom next to Vino Bolo, which had paper towels overflowing the trash and blowing all over the floor. What is the status with our maintenance supervision? And since Victoria was kind enough to tell us we have about $8 million of surplus in that account, we have a few dollars we can allocate to better supervision. I'm sure it's not the only restaurant where this has happened. I'm sure it's happened elsewhere.
Yeah, I got a couple things on that. So, yes, we can allocate dollars. In fact, one of our personnel budget requests was for additional custodians and supervision for the next fiscal year. And so I believe Scott has already signed off on that, just needs to go to the council for approval. We are working with our maintenance team on addressing, not only the cleanliness issues themselves, but internal process issues. So for quality control and things like that. That's been a work in progress, but Jeremy has been spending almost on a weekly basis time with our maintenance team to get that squared away.
Is that outsourced?
No, that's currently internal.
That's internal.
Yeah, so we, due to some contractual issues, outsourcing is, no here, when it comes to cleanliness. The other thing that I will put out there, and it's not an excuse, it's just a reality, is when you have 11,000 people that pound the facility all at one time, sometimes it can be challenging just to get around to certain areas. And so, we try and do it as quickly as we can. We try and make sure that those protocols are in place, but sometimes there may be a delay of 5-10 minutes before we're able to get there to take care of the problem.
Okay, that was not a 10-minute problem because it was flooding over in a major way. So I would just reiterate, it's my recollection from the customer experience surveys we did, that cleanliness of the airport was something where we did not get high grades. Daniel, is that an accurate recollection?
Previously, we had janitorial staff, our complaint rates for restaurant has come down. Jake, you compiled it where that's correct.
It's improved a lot, but we still get a couple comments here and there, not nearly the volume we were seeing last year.
Okay, so it's much better. It's good news that we won't have like one-off incident, but maybe we can fix it. Thank you.
Other commissioner comments, questions? Where are we with the RFP for the arts curator?
That is, not gonna be posted until July.
Any reason why July?
The process that takes time once we get the scope in and we get, the government has a line of other items that they're working on, so our line to go in July.
Can we get an update next meeting, please? Just kind of, I'd love to see what the RFP looks like or the draft looks like. Is that possible?
I believe I'm not gonna receive the draft until May.
Okay.
But I will put that on my radar to bring that back.
Great. Thank you.
Did the Boeing winglet get installed?
Yes, it's nice.
It's really nice.
Oh, good, yeah, I've seen it.
Large. It's big, yeah, it's quite, that's quite nice.
So we have that, we have the activation to see, we have lots of things to see. And Trio around the corner and Vino Bolo around the corner as well. Maybe before our April meeting, we should have a little visit, a tour. But that's not a bad idea. Maybe we could do that if time permits. For those who are interested, we can just tour these things before our next meeting. Other comments or questions? Anything else? Staff, anything else?
From staff.
We all good? Record, how does the 4 o'clock meeting work, everybody? We're all here. I guess it works. Very good. It's all good. Go for our short. All right, Paul, thank you very much for your time, staff. Thank you for your preparation. See you all next month here, this location,
April 23rd.
April 23rd. Thanks all. I know.